If others can disturb your peace, they already own a part of you. The true danger is not the insult or the disrespect. It is the weakness you reveal when you let it touch you. Today, I will show you how to make yourself untouchable. Men believe their torment comes from the cruelty of others. Yet the true tormentor is their own fragile spirit. To be bothered is to declare silently that you are ruled, not by your will, but by the petty gestures of another. Understand this power belongs not to the loudest voice, but to the one who cannot be moved, who wears silence as a weapon. In a world eager to provoke you, mastery lies not in resistance, but in rendering their attempts futile. Let us dissect the art of becoming untouchable, where disturbance finds no home within you. They say a man is free when no one commands him, but what greater command exists than the one hidden in your own reaction? When someone bothers you, insults you, mocks you, you believe you are answering them. In truth, you are obeying them. Their words pull the strings. Your face tightens, your heart quickens, your tongue spits fire. They have turned you into their puppet, and you do not even see the strings. Ask yourself, when you react, who is in control? Is it you, or the one who provoked you? Reactivity is the most common trap of the powerless. It is the leash placed on men who believe they are free. The dog barks when struck, the child cries when scolded, the fool argues when mocked. In each case, the aggressor dictates the rhythm, while the victim follows. The strongest chains are not made of iron, but of impulses you cannot master. Consider history. A ruler surrounded by enemies who knows how to provoke his anger will control him without needing to draw a sword. An insult from a rival ambassador, a careless remark in council. If the ruler explodes, he shows both his fragility and his predictability. His enemies do not need to guess how to defeat him. His temper betrays his strategy before battle even begins. Julius Caesar's brilliance was not merely in conquest, but in patience. His enemies called him weak, accused him of ambition, spread rumors to tarnish his name. Yet he did not lash out blindly. He allowed the insults to grow, to gather until his enemies revealed themselves. Then he struck, not in anger, but in calculation. His silence was a blade sharper than any words. Now compare this to modern life. Think of the colleague who mocks you at work, the stranger who provokes you online, the family member who knows exactly which word will ignite your temper. When you snap, they smile. Why? Because they have succeeded in controlling you without lifting a hand. They have forced you into the role they designed for you. The angry fool, the unstable one, the easy target. This is why you must see reactivity for what it is, not a defense, but a surrender. Psychology confirms this truth. The one who provokes seeks what is called emotional dominance. They throw bait into the water, and the reactive man bites. The provoker gains satisfaction, influence, even status, while the reactive man loses control, loses credibility, and loses peace. Think carefully. Have you ever regretted silence? Rarely. But you have often regretted words spoken in heat. To master power, you must master the pause. Imagine yourself as a fortress. Each arrow that strikes the walls makes no sound inside. The soldiers within do not panic. The fortress holds. What does the attacker feel? Frustration, exhaustion, eventually despair. But if the gates fly open in the first assault, the fortress falls without resistance. And so with you. If every insult rattles your spirit, you are a fortress with open gates. But let me offer you a darker insight. Sometimes being unbothered is not enough. Sometimes you must appear unbothered while quietly taking note. This is the art of retribution delayed. When you show reaction, the enemy knows they have touched you. But if you remain still, eyes calm, voice steady, they will never know whether you dismiss them or whether you are storing their offense as a weapon for later. Uncertainty is more powerful than anger. The cunning learn to use silence as a mask, and behind that mask, they sharpen their knives. You may ask, why not simply speak your truth? Why not defend yourself? Because defense is a position of weakness. To defend is to admit the attack landed. To justify is to prove the enemy's point had weight. Only the untouchable need not defend. Think of a king seated upon his throne. If a jester mocks him and the king laughs, the jester gains no victory. But if the king strikes the jester in rage, the court whispers, "Even the fool can wound our king." Respect dies in that moment, not for the jester, but for the ruler who allowed himself to be provoked. So I ask you again, who rules you? The one who insults or the one who resists? To become untouchable, you must see reactivity as poison, offered sweetly in a cup of pride. Drink it, and you belong to the hand that poured it. Refuse it, and you remain sovereign over yourself. Master this, and you rise above those who would toy with your spirit. Fail, and you remain their servant, though you wear the mask of strength, and yet silence alone is not enough. For there is a way to turn their attempts into fuel, transforming provocation into advantage. That, my student of power, is the next secret we must uncover. To survive in a world ruled by power, you must build a fortress. But not of stone, nor of walls. The true fortress is silence. The discipline of remaining unmoved when others seek to drag you into their chaos. Consider this: when someone insults you, mocks you, or tries to pull you into conflict, what they desire is not victory, but reaction. They want you to break formation, to abandon your center, to meet them on the battlefield of emotion. If you accept, you have already lost. The fortress of silence denies them that field. Think of the Stoic philosophers who trained themselves to meet calamity with calm. When the Emperor Marcus Aurelius was slandered, he wrote only to remind himself, "If it is true, let me correct myself. If it is false, let it pass." This was not weakness, it was mastery. By treating the attack as air, he remained sovereign over his mind. His enemies stabbed at shadows, never touching the core of his being. But let us not mistake silence for passivity. A fortress is not weakness, it is strength contained. The fortress does not chase its enemy, it waits unshaken as wave after wave breaks upon its walls. To the attacker, this silence is unbearable. They expected resistance, they expected rage, they expected tears. Instead, they find nothing, only a wall that does not speak, and that wall terrifies them. Why? Because silence exposes their impotence. If they cannot disturb you, they have failed. Their power evaporates in your refusal to acknowledge it. This is why silence is not merely defensive, it is an act of dominance. Reflect on this in your own life. A coworker makes a cruel remark, expecting you to snap. Instead, you continue your task as if no sound was made. The silence eats at them. They feel invisible, unworthy of your energy. Soon, their own insecurity becomes their tormentor. The fortress is psychological warfare. But there is another layer to silence: reputation. Once people learn that you cannot be rattled, that no insult, no provocation draws reaction, they cease trying. Your calm becomes legend. They whisper, "Do not waste your breath on him, for he does not move." And so your fortress grows stronger with every failed attack. Yet I warn you, silence is not easy. It is the most difficult weapon to wield because it demands mastery of self. Anger demands expression, pride demands defense, fear demands escape. To remain still is to choke these instincts, to stand in the fire without flinching. Can you do this? Can you hold your composure while someone claws at your dignity? Most cannot. And that is why those who can become untouchable. History gives us countless examples. When Napoleon was ridiculed as a little corporal, he did not waste breath denying it. He let the words hang in the air until they lost power. Later, the same men who mocked him stood beneath his command, crushed by the weight of his silence turned into force. Even in personal life, silence is strategy. Think of the arguments you have entered, the messages you answered in anger, the confrontations you rushed into. Did they bring victory or exhaustion? Now consider the arguments you ignored, the messages you left unanswered, the insults you refused to dignify. Which gave you more strength in the end? Silence preserves energy. Silence shifts control. Silence allows the enemy to reveal themselves more clearly while you remain hidden. And here lies the deeper truth. The fortress is not only protection against others. It is protection against yourself. For the enemy outside is rarely as dangerous as the chaos within. Silence is discipline. It trains you not to be dragged by impulse. It trains you to endure discomfort without yielding. It trains you to see provocation as the tool of the weak, not as a call to arms. But silence must be deliberate, used wisely, for silence at the wrong time can be mistaken for fear. The fortress must not crumble into retreat. Instead, it must project confidence, an unspoken message. I heard you, and you are beneath me. This is the paradox of the fortress. It is not built of walls, but of perception. To the world, you appear immovable. To yourself, you are unshaken. Together, this creates an aura of strength greater than words could ever achieve. So I ask you, when the storm comes, when voices rise against you, will you open your gates in frenzy, or will you let the storm exhaust itself against your walls? The choice defines whether you remain a prisoner of others, or master of yourself. And yet, silence does not only shield. It can be turned into a weapon, one that denies the enemy satisfaction and leaves them bleeding from their own effort. In the next step, you will learn how to twist their attacks back upon them, by refusing not only to respond, but by using their desperation against them. Power is never free. It is always paid for, and the coin most often spent is attention. Every time you let someone bother you, you pay them. You enrich their standing while you deplete your own. Do you think kings lower themselves to quarrel with beggars? No, because attention from a king elevates the beggar. Even an insult from power can be transformed into honor by the powerless. This is the economy of perception. What you acknowledge, you make real. What you ignore, you reduce to nothing. Understand this: attention is not just focus, it is validation. It tells the world, this matters. This person matters, their words touched me, and in that moment, you grant them status. You make them bigger than they are. Think of the Roman gladiator who tried to taunt Marcus Aurelius from the arena. The emperor did not answer. He did not even turn his head. To acknowledge the taunt would have been to descend into the dust. Instead, he remained still, his silence louder than 1,000 words. The gladiator's voice echoed for a moment and died. Why? Because no currency was paid, no attention was given. The insult vanished like smoke. Now compare this with the rulers who allowed slander to consume them. Consider the Byzantine emperors who wasted years stamping out whispers of rumor. Each denial, each punishment, each word gave new life to lies. By answering, they transformed fiction into importance. Their enemies understood this game well. To provoke the emperor's attention, and you plant your seed in the soil of his reputation. Are you guilty of the same? When someone mocks you online and you respond, what have you done? You have taken their insignificant gesture and multiplied its value. You brought your audience to their doorstep. You gave them oxygen they did not deserve. Attention is energy. It is a gift. And when you spend it on the petty, you rob yourself of the ability to invest it in the grand. This is why manipulation thrives on provocation. The manipulator does not need strength, only your gaze. They will poke, prod, and disturb until you look their way. Once you do, they are no longer invisible. They have entered your stage, and suddenly, you share the spotlight with someone unworthy of it. Have you noticed how children cry louder when ignored? They understand instinctively what many adults forget: that attention, even negative attention, is power. To shout at them is to reward them. To punish them is to confirm their influence. But to remain calm, to deny the currency of reaction, is to bankrupt their strategy. This is not only true in families or politics. It is the essence of social dynamics. The one who can withhold attention holds the throne. The one who craves it kneels. But there is a darker truth here. Attention does not simply elevate others. It diminishes you. The more you spend it recklessly, the cheaper your presence becomes. If every insult drags words from your lips, if every rumor forces a reply, if every critic earns your gaze, what value does your attention have? None. You are like a king who hands out gold in the marketplace until gold becomes dust. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine your attention as rare as a jewel. Imagine others competing for it, because it is so seldom given. Every time you speak, it matters. Every time you look, it carries weight. This is how power is built, not by reacting to all, but by choosing carefully where to spend yourself. This is why the wise cultivate scarcity. They do not shout in every argument. They do not answer every provocation. They do not pour their energy into the hands of fools. They understand that attention, once spent, can never be reclaimed. Reflect on your own life. How many hours, days, even years have you wasted feeding enemies with your attention? How many traps have you entered because you could not resist the bait of being acknowledged? And what might you have built if all that energy had been invested in your own growth instead? The most dangerous opponent is not the one who fights you. It is the one who ignores you, because in ignoring you they declare, "You are beneath my concern." This is annihilation by silence, and it terrifies those who crave recognition more than death itself. So guard your currency. Spend it as a miser spends gold. Reward only what strengthens you. Deny what seeks to diminish you. For attention is both sword and shield. Misused, it enslaves you. Withheld, it makes you a master. And yet, there is a way to go further. A way not only to withhold attention, but to weaponize absence itself, turning silence into a blade that cuts your enemy deeper than any word could. Absence is not emptiness. It is a weapon. Where presence can be argued with, silence cannot. Where words can be twisted, absence cannot be answered. To remove yourself, to withhold your response, to vanish when others expect you to engage. This is a form of control more devastating than confrontation. Consider this when someone insults you. They do not truly want to wound you. They want to see the wound. They want to taste the proof of their success in your reaction. If you remain present and respond, you feed them. But if you retreat into absence, you starve them. You deny them the very prize they seek. This is why absence is not weakness. It is denial. It is the art of stripping your enemy of the only nourishment they crave, your attention. History is filled with rulers who understood this. When Queen Elizabeth of England was slandered by rivals in Europe, she often refused to answer their accusations directly. She let them shout into the void, and the void consumed them. By withholding her response, she forced others to appear petty while she remained untouchable. The silence of a monarch was louder than the clamor of 1,000 voices. Now reflect on your own life. When a rival at work undermines you, they do so to draw you into conflict. When you refuse to engage, their words fall flat, their arrows strike air. The silence is humiliating for them, because it reveals the truth. They do not have the power to move you. Absence disarms them in a way retaliation never could. But let us take this further. Absence is not only a shield, it is a trap. When you deliberately withdraw, you create a vacuum. And nature, as you know, despises a vacuum. People rush to fill it. With speculation, with insecurity, with desperation. Your absence forces them to reveal themselves. They whisper, they panic, they imagine motives you never voiced. Their mind becomes your battlefield, while you remain comfortably outside the fight. Think of modern relationships. When one lover withdraws, stops replying, stops appearing, stops explaining, the other spirals. They replay every word, searching for meaning. They torture themselves with questions. The one who left says nothing, yet controls everything. Such is the terror of absence. It allows the enemy to fight themselves in your place. Psychology names this the power of uncertainty. Human beings crave closure, resolution, acknowledgement. Deny them this, and they unravel. By refusing to confirm or deny, you leave them suspended. Suspended between hope and fear, between anger and doubt. And in this suspension, they exhaust themselves. Absence is not avoidance. It is calculated starvation. But make no mistake, weaponized absence requires discipline. Most people cannot bear to leave words unanswered, cannot resist proving themselves, cannot tolerate letting others speak unopposed. Their pride betrays them. They rush back into the arena to correct, to defend, to retaliate. And in doing so, they feed the very mouths they should have starved. You must ask yourself, are you strong enough to deny them this satisfaction? Can you let lies spread without answering? Can you let others speak against you, while you remain above them? If you can, you hold the higher ground. If not, you remain a prisoner of your pride. The great irony is that absence often speaks louder than words. When you do not appear at a battle, your absence is felt. When you do not respond to an insult, your silence echoes. People notice. They wonder why. They whisper about your restraint, about your control, about your hidden motives. And so, absence builds an aura, an invisible presence more powerful than being there. But here lies the dark brilliance. Absence can be timed like a strike, to appear then vanish, to engage once then withdraw, to give a taste then starve. This rhythm drives others mad. They never know if you are finished or merely waiting. They never know if your silence is indifference or a storm gathering behind the walls. Their uncertainty is your throne. So remember this: when you are absent, you do not disappear, you haunt. You linger in the minds of others, forcing them to wrestle with shadows. You become larger in absence than you ever could in presence. And yet, absence, if used too often, risks something dangerous. If you vanish completely, the world may forget you. The weapon must be balanced, absence and presence woven together like blade and scabbard. Too much presence makes you common. Too much absence makes you irrelevant. But the right dose at the right moment, this is poison that leaves no cure. Now ask yourself, who has greater power? The one who shouts endlessly, desperate to be heard, or the one who withdraws into silence, forcing others to carry his name in their mouths? The answer is clear. And still, there is another move more cunning than absence alone, to use the enemy's effort against them, to twist their provocation into your advantage, turning their strike into their downfall. Provocation is a test. Most see it as an attack, a threat, a wound to defend against. But to the strategic mind, provocation is an invitation. It is your enemy revealing their weakness. It is them stepping forward, declaring their intention, and exposing their hand. What they believe will trouble you can instead be turned into your advantage. Ask yourself, why does someone provoke you? Is it not because they are insecure, because they crave validation, or fear being ignored? The act of provocation itself is proof of their dependence on you. They seek your attention, your reaction, your energy. They need you to acknowledge them. This need is your leverage. History is filled with rulers who transformed insult into opportunity. Consider Octavian, later Augustus, who was mocked as too young and too weak to rule. His enemies believed these words would break him. Instead, he used their doubts to mask his rise. He played the inexperienced youth while secretly consolidating power, letting their mockery blind them until he stood above them all as emperor. What was meant as insult became his shield. The same principle applies in daily life. Imagine a rival at work who calls you incompetent in front of others. Most would defend themselves. But defense is weakness. It signals the insult touched you. A better move: let the insult hang in the air unchallenged until your rival's desperation grows. Then, quietly produce results that prove them wrong, making their words a mirror of their own failure. Their provocation becomes your stage. This is the essence of leverage, letting the enemy's move serve your plan. Psychology explains why this works. Provocation often reveals projection. The aggressor shows you the very flaw or fear they carry within themselves. The man who mocks your intelligence often doubts his own. The colleague who belittles your work fears being irrelevant. When they provoke, they are not revealing your weakness. They are confessing theirs. If you observe closely, every insult is a window into the attacker's soul. Can you see the advantage this gives you? To know what they fear, to know what they lack, to know where they bleed. But there is a deeper tactic. Instead of ignoring provocation entirely, sometimes you amplify it, subtly, strategically, so the enemy reveals themselves more fully. The art is to remain calm while they dig their own grave. A smile, a nod, a slight remark that encourages them to speak further. Soon their words overreach. Their tone betrays their instability, and all who listen begin to question their credibility. By giving them rope, you ensure they hang themselves. Think of leaders who baited their opponents this way. When rival generals mocked Alexander the Great as reckless, he did not argue. He allowed them to speak, to boast, to underestimate him. Their overconfidence became their downfall when his recklessness crushed them in swift victories. What began as provocation ended as his triumph. The lesson is simple: provocation is not a call to war. It is a signal of vulnerability. When someone tries to disturb you, they are not showing power. They are showing need. And need is the chain you can pull. Reflect now on your own life. How many times have you fallen into the trap of answering insult with insult? Did it lift you, or did it lower you? And how many times did silence or calm observation reveal more about your enemy than words ever could? Learn to ask, why did they choose this insult? Why now? What does this reveal about their fear? Each provocation is intelligence, a gift wrapped in hostility. To react blindly is to waste the gift. To observe coldly is to unwrap it. But turning provocation into leverage requires one final element: timing. Strike too soon, and you reveal your hand. Strike too late, and the moment is lost. The art is to let the provoker reveal enough of themselves that when you move, it is devastating. You turn their attempt at dominance into evidence of their weakness. You turn their aggression into your proof of superiority. So, the next time someone seeks to bother you, remember, they have already confessed dependence on your reaction. They have told you that you matter. They have told you where they are weak. Your task is not to answer them, but to exploit what they reveal. Do this well, and your enemies become your informants. Their attacks become your tools. Their hatred becomes your ladder. But even leverage has its limits. To make yourself truly untouchable, you must go beyond using provocation. You must construct an image so impenetrable that no one dares provoke you at all, for they already know the outcome. That, my student of power, is the final art we now approach. Power is not only what you possess, it is what others believe you possess. And nothing is more frightening than an image of strength that cannot be pierced. When men see you as impenetrable, they hesitate before striking. When women see you as untouchable, they test you less. When rivals see you as unmovable, they conspire quietly but dare not provoke openly. This is the essence of the image of impenetrability. Not mere silence, not mere self-control, but the deliberate cultivation of a reputation that warns others before they even approach. Consider history. Why did so many fear the Mongols before they even reached their borders? It was not only the armies of Genghis Khan, but the stories surrounding them. Tales of merciless victories spread like wildfire, often exaggerated by enemies themselves. The image of impenetrability fought the battle long before the army arrived. Cities surrendered without resistance because they already believed resistance was hopeless. Your life is no different. If people see you as easy to rattle, they will test you. If they see you as unshaken, they will think twice before wasting their efforts. The image alone saves you from countless battles. But how is this image built? Not through words. Anyone can claim strength. True impenetrability is projected through consistency. When others notice that nothing seems to move you, neither insult nor flattery, neither provocation nor praise, they begin to believe you are carved from stone. And once they believe, the myth sustains itself. Psychology explains this phenomenon well. Human beings seek patterns. They predict behavior based on past observation. If you show weakness once, they believe it is always there. If you remain unmoved across time, they conclude you are unshakable. The mind fills the gaps, painting you as more powerful than you truly are. Reflect on this. How many reputations have you seen inflated simply because the person revealed little? The quiet man in the room is assumed to know more than he says. The calm woman in conflict is assumed to be plotting deeper than she reveals. The mystery becomes a weapon. And yet, this image requires discipline. You cannot afford sudden eruptions of emotion, for one crack in the fortress ruins the illusion. People do not remember your calm days, they remember the one moment you broke. The mask must never slip. This is why rulers often stage their presence. Think of Louis XIV, the Sun King of France. He carefully orchestrated his image so that courtiers saw him as untouchable, radiant, almost divine. He controlled access to himself, making his presence scarce and valuable. Even his silence at court was interpreted as wisdom, his slightest gesture as command. Did he possess infinite strength? Of course not. But the image made him appear so. An appearance, in politics as in life, is often more decisive than truth. So ask yourself, what image do you project? Do others see you as easily provoked or as a wall too high to climb? Do they test you, or do they fear wasting their time? Your answer reveals whether you are respected or merely endured. But here lies the subtlety. Impenetrability is not about being cold or unfeeling. It is about control. You may feel insult, but you do not reveal it. You may feel anger, but you channel it privately. The image is what matters, not the inner storm. Like the general who shows calm on the battlefield while chaos rages inside, you project steadiness so that others rally to you. Or fear opposing you. Once this image is secured, it creates a paradoxical power you rarely need to defend yourself, because no one dares attack. The very threat of your impenetrability keeps others at bay. You have shifted from reaction to prevention, from defense to deterrence. But beware of arrogance. The image must not drift into cruelty or needless display. A reputation for impenetrability must be subtle, earned through restraint, not shouted from the rooftops. For if you proclaim yourself unshakable, you invite challengers eager to test you. The strongest walls are those no one dares approach, not those loudly advertised. So cultivate the image. Build it with silence, consistency, and restraint. Protect it as you would your crown. For once it is broken, rebuilding is nearly impossible. And remember this final truth. Once others believe you cannot be moved, you gain not just protection, but influence. For those who fear provoking you will instead seek your favor, turning potential enemies into cautious allies. Ask yourself now, would you rather be the one constantly defending your dignity, or the one whose dignity is unquestioned before the battle even begins? The choice is yours. And yet, there remains one final layer of mastery. It is not enough to appear impenetrable. You must learn how to make this image work for you, bending others into submission without ever raising your hand. That, my student of power, is where true sovereignty begins. Control is strongest when it is unseen. The hand that pulls the strings is never the one exposed to the crowd. Those who seek obvious power provoke resistance. Those who rule silently command without battle. What is the essence of domination? Not force, not threats, but influence hidden beneath the surface. When others think they act freely, yet follow the path you laid for them, then you have mastered control. Remember this, revealed power invites rebellion. Invisible power endures. So reflect. How often have you been guided by someone else without knowing it? And how often have you done the same? Now, I turn to you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Confess your strategies or the moments you noticed others shaping you. Subscribe if you hunger for more lessons in hidden strength. And spread this video so others too may glimpse the darker truths of influence. Power belongs not to the loud, but to the unseen.